They met online the way most people do now. No dramatic story, no accidental collision in the street. Just two profiles, a few photos, and a message that said, "Hey, I liked how you wrote that." Felt small at the time. Ordinary. But that was how everything started now, quietly behind screens. Their conversations moved fast. Voice notes on the way to work. Late-night texts that stretched longer than planned. Shared memes, shared playlists, shared moments that never existed in the same physical space. When they finally met in person, it felt both familiar and strange, like seeing someone you already knew but had never touched. The chemistry was there, but so was caution. They had learned it the hard way. They didn't rush into labels. They talked instead about boundaries, expectations, past relationships that had taught them what they didn't want anymore. They checked in often, sometimes too often. Are we okay? Did that come out wrong? Communication became both the bridge and the obstacle. Everything was discussed, analyzed, clarified. Nothing was left unsaid, and yet, so much stayed unresolved. The tension didn't come from jealousy or betrayal. Came from waiting for replies, watching read receipts appear without answers, wondering if silence meant space or distance. She tried not to check the time between messages. He tried not to assume the worst. They both failed sometimes. They were close but always slightly apart. Even when they lay next to each other, phones face down on the table, the digital world lingered between them like a third presence. Arguments were calm but heavy, carried out through long texts that left too much room for interpretation. Apologies were typed carefully, rewritten before sending, sometimes losing their warmth along the way. Still, there were moments that felt undeniably real. Cooking together without checking phones. Walking in silence without needing to document it. Laughing over something small that didn't need to be shared online. In those moments, the noise faded, and connection felt simple again. One night, after a long pause in conversation, she turned her read receipts off. Not as a punishment, as a boundary. He noticed but didn't comment. Instead, the next message he sent was shorter, clearer, more honest. They talked less but better. Their relationship didn't become perfect. Modern ones rarely do, but it became intentional, less reactive, more present. They learned that connection now required not just openness, but restraint. Not just communication, but trust in silence. Because sometimes, in a world that never stops talking, the strongest signal is choosing when not to respond, and knowing the other person will still be there when you do. The quiet that followed didn't feel empty the way silence used to. Felt chosen. They stopped narrating every emotion in real time and started letting moments exist before explaining them. When something felt off, they waited until they could say it clearly instead of immediately. That pause changed the tone of everything. They began seeing each other less often, but more intentionally. No multitasking dates. No half-listening while scrolling. When they were together, phones stayed in bags or face down, forgotten after the first few minutes. At first it felt strange, like stepping out of a constant current. Then it felt relieving. Conversations slowed. Eye contact lasted longer. Touch became more grounded, less distracted. Conflict still happened, but they looked different now. Instead of long message threads trying to solve everything at once, they chose to talk in person or not at all. Some issues dissolved on their own when given space. Others surfaced more honestly without defensiveness. They learned that clarity didn't always come from saying more. It often came from saying less, but meaning it. There were moments of doubt. Modern relationships train people to expect instant reassurance, constant availability. She sometimes wondered if less communication meant less care. He sometimes feared distance would turn into disinterest. But each time they checked in, not urgently, not anxiously, they found each other still there, steady. What surprised them most was how intimacy deepened when performance faded. Without the need to document or explain everything, their connection felt lighter and more real. They laughed more easily. They disagreed without fear. They trusted that silence wasn't abandonment, just breathing room. Their relationship didn't follow a clean arc. It bent, adjusted, recalibrated. Like most modern connections, it lived somewhere between closeness and independence. But now, instead of fighting that space, they respected it. They never turned red receipts back on. Not because they were hiding, but because they no longer needed proof of presence. To believe in it, and in a world that measures connection by response time, they chose something quieter, a relationship that existed even when no one was typing.